building a family with soul. I want to preface this by saying love is assumed. For me, love is a decision. It's a verb. A lot of little things that breathe life into an intention. So building a family with soul takes a lot of things. Among them, the commitment to know thyself. The words inscribed Delphi, individually and collectively. The ability to hold the tension. The courage to name and envision what you want. And the willingness and determination to dream big on both personal and impersonal levels. And to believe in those dreams enough to do the work required to make them real. And when you do, it doesn't feel like work. Richard Bach, author of the book Illusions, wrote, "You're never given a wish without also being given the power to make it true. You may have to work for it, however." In September 2007, a little over a month after we'd moved here from Carlsbad, California, I flew back to Southern California to participate in a National Charity League program kickoff. The National Charity League is an organization of mothers and daughters dedicated to leadership development through community service. I was the featured speaker and workshop facilitator for their first monthly meeting, the theme of which was leadership development. So there I was in Temecula, California, standing in front of 16-year-old girls and their mothers, who the girls were allowing to remain in the room for the introduction of the program only. The girls are in charge of their meetings and the content, and get to decide the extent to which their mothers will be involved or not from meeting to meeting, an intentional structure designed to get the girls to be leaders from their seats, much like the goal we, your YRUU leadership team, has for the teams among us. Those are the young religious Unitarian Universalists, and I'm part of a 4-person teaching team for that group here. The girls agreed to let their moms stick around for the introduction portion of the workshop. And after introducing myself, thanking them for including me in the kickoff and reminding them why I was there, I said, I'm making an assumption that both by looking at you and given that you're all 16, you're all menstruating. And if you're not, you will be soon. The girls squirmed a bit and took my cue, understanding that I was not actually looking for confirmation. The mother stood behind them, looking surprised. Then I said, I'm not only a professionally trained coach and leadership development consultant, I'm also a trained human sexuality program facilitator, and I'm married to a biologist. So the conversations in our home, filled with 4 boys, my husband and me, while always respectful, are very open and honest, lively, and informative. We talk about our sexuality, how to build and sustain healthy relationships, how to create awareness, and how to nurture our capacity and potential as human beings. It's impossible for me to talk about leadership and building a family with soul without talking about our biology, our nature, our instincts, and the power of integrating this with growing awareness, greater consciousness, intention, and choice. Hoping the moms would continue to trust me, I continued by saying, so, here's what I want you to consider. Biologically speaking, given that you are menstruating now, every single cell in your body, from the tip of your toes to the top of your head, is saying, find a mate, the perfect mate, and procreate. Now almost all the girls are leaning in, albeit slightly, and some are working hard to stifle a giggle. And the moms, well, you can imagine. They look aghast. Jaws to chest, eyes bulging, clearly confused. I imagined that each of them was thinking, what the heck does this have to do with leadership? Again, I told myself to resist reacting, explaining, or apologizing. And I thought, trust yourself, trust the bigger dream. Take them to the rest of the story. They'll be fine. They're that big, as is each of you. After a little pause to let everyone get just a little bit more uncomfortable, I proceeded. I asked one of the girls, if you feel comfortable answering, please tell me where you were born. She worked with me and answered, Encinitas, California. Thanking her, I turned to the group and said, now, if I were a betting woman, I'd bet that every adult in your life, in Encinitas, California, and here in Temecula, no matter the relationship, your parents, friends, teachers, soccer coaches, you name it, is saying, don't find a mate. Don't procreate. Not now, please. You're too young, it's too early. It's not a good time. Now the girls all slumped back into their seats, their body language affirming me, and the moms began taking their first breaths in a couple of minutes. Some showed a hint of a smile. I smiled inside. I proceeded by saying, so, here we are, in the midst of a dilemma. On the one hand, from the inside out and from the core of your natural and normal biological being, your body is telling you to go find a mate and procreate. And on the other hand, from every responsible and trusted outside source and resource, you are being told, no, don't find a mate, don't procreate. Holding both hands out to illustrate the dilemma, I continued, these are powerful and opposing messages, powerful forces, both real and both valid. And they have been at work in you every second of every waking hour since you began menstruating. So if you go to bed tired and confused every night, now you have a little insight into one of the reasons why. I paused and remained quiet for a while, letting this sink in. After scanning the room, I said, this is what happens in our lives all the time. We are forever and often getting messages that are completely opposite from one another. And in this particular case, as in most cases, it's not about whether one or the other is right or wrong, good or bad. They're just different, and they're happening at the same time. And this is the challenge of leadership and of personal leadership. It's to be able to sit in the heart of the paradox of these opposites and hold the tension. I continued, this kind of tension is what I call productive tension. In the coaching world, that's part of my job, to take people from high stress or low apathy into productive tension. Productive tension is a useful thing. It is what gets us to wake up and get into right action. The kind of action that is thoughtfully conceived and aligned with our values, guiding principles, knowledge, and dreams for ourselves and for one another. It works much better when we know what those things are. I asked, how do you reconcile these opposing forces and messages? The mothers and daughters stared at me, no one willing to venture a guess. I answered, you don't. That was a trick question. But it's what most of us try to do. We seek to reconcile a conflict, relieve a pain, break the tension, make a decision, just do it, virtually immediately. I continued, and that's why we're here today, to learn how to sit with these apparently opposite messages and to learn how to resist the impulse to reconcile them, to let the emotions be felt and let the feelings that what we are learning guide us to new insights and serve as motivators to take new and more thoughtful action. All of this begins and is fueled by personal identity work, with a commitment to knowing ourselves and how we lead naturally. After their mothers went away, we began that work of getting to know ourselves and one another, and of learning how to be with what we were discovering, even if we didn't like all of it. And in the process, we were discovering there was a lot to like about ourselves and one another. We began learning how to sit in the heart of the paradox of ourselves and to explore the parts of ourselves that we tucked away for one reason or another, parts that we thought were scary or unlovable or that we simply did not know existed. It was actually fun and empowering. This is the kind of work, this is the goal of this kind of work, to learn to respect and accept ourselves, warts and all, and to encourage exploration. From this place of self-respect and personal power, we are more equipped both to respect others and to be curious about them in all their diversity. This is how healthy and sustainable relationships get built, even in the midst of enormous diversity and conflict. These are two of the fundamental keys to building a family with soul. Knowing, accepting, and respecting who we are, and becoming leaders in our own lives in that process. And learning about productive tension, how to recognize and hold the tensions in our lives, and then create the time and space to release these tensions in meaningful and constructive ways, which begins first by learning to recognize and sit in the heart of these. So beyond know thyself, knowing who you are, how you lean, what you value, what you're good at, and what you stand for, which, by the way, is what we're doing in the YRUU program with our teens. And learning how to be with productive tension, learning how to sit in the heart of the paradoxes, what else builds a family with soul? Well, a few things. Among them, envisioning, knowing what you want, dreaming, the environment you create and the mindset you stand in, support, and community. In the time remaining today, I will talk about envisioning, dreaming, and knowing what you want on multiple levels. Perhaps you'll have me back for part 2, and we can talk more about environment, mindset, support, and community.